is from Mumbai, but she's so passionate, and I'm very jealous about her profile because she gets a chance to, play games and also, made that as her profession. So she is a game therapist. She is the founder of Khel Khel Mein, which is into different ways of, doing activities or playing around and making your events so fun-filled so that you don't get bored. She is doing this for corporates, a lot of groups, and she is one person who's also taken time out during pandemic to teach parents what is the importance of games, what are the games that would really help kids during pandemic where everybody is in the lockdown. What are the games available, what are the games they can buy online to go ahead and engage their kids and also make it learning and fun. So thanks a lot, Mittal, for joining us. It's an honor having you here. So खेल खेल में मतलब थोड़े some lives are like हंसी खेलती उनकी life गुजर जाती है. I think that's the best way to describe your profile. So people on this particular platform would love to know about you. You've done psychology, you've done child psychology, you've gone into gaming, and a lot of us don't know what is the meaning of game therapy. Maybe you can explain us. But before we get into everything, before we get into gaming, we would love to know about you. So where is Mittal from? Kahan se hai? Where are your roots from? How did you get into this particular gaming as your profession and all the activities that you've done till date? Over to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So, I'm born and raised in Mumbai. And originally, of course, the ancestors belong to Kutch, Gujarat. But I've been completely a Mumbaikar. And I did my graduation in counseling. And I worked with a psychiatrist in the initial days, but then I moved on to corporate job and I was in the hardcore education industry, doing teacher training, doing academic support for best of corporate companies like Kidsy and all. And last job I did with the BMC, the municipality government schools in Mumbai. And during the second last job, I started feeling that, in spite of people having studied English for 15 years, they still make grammatical errors. So there's something missing in our education system. And that's when I, started looking at fun as a core element. So when I dropped my corporate job, I came up with a creative writing course for children with 30 minutes of game time. That gave me amazing results, and that's how the journey with games began for me completely.
Wow, superb. So people like me feel jealous because that's your profession. You always play and all that. But what is game therapy, and what are the other services you provide in Khel Khel Mein? Are they both same or are they different?
Okay, so game therapy is a new term, especially I believe I'm the only therapist as of now in the country. And this term I coined initially with the very thought process that, when you go to a doctor, the doctor prescribes a medicine for any problem. The same way I felt that any and every behavioral problem, mental health problem, or life skill development thing can be improvised or enhanced just with playing games. So that's how that whole term game therapy came in. When we started running curriculum with children, I started seeing that it is very effective. So then I did a more deeper research into the neurology and psychology of each of the game, the mechanics, what is happening in the brain. I started reading about brain in more detail, and that's why this term game therapy, which simply says that, whatever you want to do, all you have to do is play a game and you achieve the result. And with Khel Khel Mein, there's just one short difference. Game therapy is a very, very researched and thought of thing. But in Khel Khel Mein, we do anything and everything with games. So it may not be scientific every time because there might be events also we are doing. But we always try to keep in a process of life skill development into it. And we began with children, but now we cater to women, adults, and especially to senior citizens as well for the brain fitness through game therapy. So, and even now, we have this kitty party concept for women, which is resolving their mid-age depression, mid-age identity crisis, whatever. So a lot of psychological process is involved, but for them it's just a kitty party, playing games. So
Wow,
yeah,
wow.
Khel Khel Mein is now an umbrella covering all the ages.
Yeah, good point, because some of those those ages, like housewives who generally have these issues within home, which we generally ignore as a family. Some of these games can make a lot of difference. And yeah, for men, kitty party would be like it's only a occasion where you go fashionably, khak pee ke aa jao and all that. But yeah, they also need space where they can vent out all that frustration and have create that identity for themselves. And I'm sure some of the games would get a lot of meaning for making those kitty parties successful. Are there any other games? I mean, what are the games which you touch base to make it much more exciting? I know some of the games, like when I talk about birthday games for teenager, like my one of my son just turned 13, entered 13. So it was, I mean, due to pandemic, we did not have a cake cutting, we did not have gathering, but otherwise दो तीन दिन पहले से it would be a torture for parents to organize or decorate things and all that. So instead of spending something lavishly, which is not useful, do you have some formula where that can be done much more eventfully?
Um, what we try to do is, of course, when there's one particular thing where which we call like a circular dance. So that is one thing for physical events that really livens up even the people who really do not know any kind of dance and all. So it's more of a circle thing. Another major element that we always put in into any birthday party or any gathering is we do not have competitive games. We do not have games where people get out. So even if you are in a circle, and it's usually, when you play circle game, it's like something that you have to think quick, and if you can't do certain thing, you are out, and then we have one winner in the end. We have completely eliminated that process, because again there's a whole psychology to it, but we ensure that it is completely cooperative game where every single person feels important till the end of the game. So that makes it a hit, because somebody who's shy, somebody who often has this complex that if this person is there, I'll never win, even all such people are incorporated into that. And besides that, depending on the age, we pick up games, because whenever it's birthday party and all, there needs to be quick movement. You cannot have slow and thinking games in such events. So whenever it's any such thing, it's always has a lot of fun element, but then the skills focused on maybe logical, maybe with like agility, and different things. But yes, the core should remain to fun and cooperative games.
Super. So, friends who don't know Mithal yet, I have a short video about her journey, her travel, her collection of games. She loves to collect some old age, or I would say not old age, but antique games which are like phasing out in India. So, here is a short video, and then let's get back to Mithal as to how can we reduce age through gaming. I have this particular question for her. Unnecessarily I've been searching YouTube and all the research documents. I didn't know answer was here. Mittal pehle mil jati thi, so I would have done something. So let's watch this short video and then come back. That was awesome. So yeah, let's come back to the question. How do you reduce age by games?
Okay. I'll then move on to the philosophy or the psychology parameters. One thing, of course, as a brain fitness coach, when I do game therapy for senior citizens, when I'm teaching about the reverse aging of the brain, I always say how games are very, very important, and I have picked and chosen different games that are strengthening or stimulating different brain functions. So by playing those games, your brain starts getting younger, and it starts functioning better. So we have taken care of multiple different parameters or brain functions in that. Other thing is when you're playing games, the happy chemicals of the brain are released. You call it dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphin. Now, these happy chemicals naturally make you happy. Happiness is one important element in any learning process or anti-aging. Second thing is, when we talk of oxytocin, that's a chemical that, gets released when you socialize, when you're with people around and you're happy with the loved ones. Now, this also is known to be an immunity booster. That is why during the pandemic, we have seen that people who have been completely isolated have found it more difficult or have faced different illnesses just because completely staying socially isolated. So when you're with people, when you're with family, even within home, when you have company, you at least allow oxytocin to be released. And so when you're gaming, it naturally creates that environment and a stimulation for all these hormones. So it is doing a lot of work within the brain, and that chemicals then further start working on different parts of the body and the psychology. So your mental health, or one major factor that we talk about, is stress, is taken care of when you're playing games. So imagine you've had a completely stressful day and you come back in the evening, and rather than watching the TV, if you can spend just 10 to 15 minutes playing some fun filled game, that itself will start changing the quality of the bonding within the family, and also the mental health, which naturally allows anti-aging, or staying happier and healthier.
Provided you win. So I keep
Ah.
losing with my kids. So gone are those days when you're happy because you're always winning, but now you keep losing with your kids. So I'm not sure how many of those chemicals would get released, but
But
I
I would
agree
like
with
to
you.
intervene here.
It's fun. That 10-20 minutes what you spend with
Yes,
the
yes,
kids, it's
yes.
fun.
Yes, and I also want to intervene here, because even if you don't win, this is one thing I always feel, that youngsters should be exposed to game much early in life, because when you're losing in game, you do not feel that depression. Like if you fail in an exam, you might feel too low, but when you lose in a game, you have more enthusiasm to deal to play better, and that is allowing acceptance of failure, which today is often a difficult thing. Failure is something which a lot of youth today are not able to accept very easily, and then it leads to either suicidal thoughts or different depressive thoughts. So a game, and failing in a game, definitely allows that acceptance in a very, very graceful manner. So failing is also good.
Good point. Good point. अच्छा मित्तल ये बताओ. Okay, I agree to winning, losing. I agree to your point where it's very engaging and there should be competition. But in the video which we played, one of the things which you did was dominoes. ये
Yeah.
डोमिनोज में क्या खुशी है? You take minutes, hours together to line up the dices, or what do you call them, the
The
dices,
dominoes.
the
The
dominoes.
dom
Okay, you line up the dominoes, and एक झलक में you basically scatter everything. So what does that game teach?
Okay. Now, talking about the therapeutic elements in a dominoes, is when you're setting up something like that, besides the actual role of a domino, if you're setting up, you are actually stimulating the creative juices. because you're trying to make some new creation, you're trying to make new different designs. So there is a lot of free play, or a lot of what we call as open play involved in it, because it is not having any restrictions, any right or wrong rules. It allows that complete free expression of what you want to put into that play. So that is definitely one thing which is very important. And people who are creative, they often enjoy these kind of, like, either Lego or construction blocks or these domino setups, because that's allowing them to create different things, and developing their innovative thinking, as well as developing that confidence of theirs, or that visual aesthetic, or the visual logic of creating something and being able to give it a form. Another thing is, something like dominoes or any such game which is taking too long to set up. Usually, so because I am a jigsaw puzzle addict, I find jigsaw puzzles very meditative. And this is not something many people will talk about. They'll talk about logic, they'll talk about memory or multiple things. But when I started solving the bigger jigsaws, like 1,000 pieces one, which really takes a couple of days to complete, I started realizing when I'm doing that, I'm so involved in it, that I do not know what's happening around when people call out or anything. So it is a very natural way of, doing meditation for yourself. So even when you're setting up things like dominoes and all, the people who do, you will find them so highly engaged into what they are doing, so deeply engrossed, that a form of meditation is happening for them without actually doing that formal meditation, which is so tough for many people. So that's one big thing.
You also collect games which are fading out. So what are the games which you have recently collected, or in your journey till date, which are like, were really good, had a lot of importance, but now slowly fading off, and people are switching into games which are like internationally famous, or they've seen that on online, etc.
Right. So one, of course, game is, it's a very, very common game yet seen in some of the smaller games and all, is Nine Men's Morris, which was called the Nau Kankari in the South India. That's one of my favorite. But if I talk of games fading out or completely not known these days, then Palangudi, which it's called Palangudi in Tamil Nadu, and it's called Mankala across various countries. But Palangudi is little different from Mankala, but that's again one favorite game I have. There's a game called Tabla that again is not visible in most of the places. Goats and Tigers is now getting visibility, and after it appeared in the Toy-Cathon, people have started knowing more about it. But that's again a hunt game, and it really has amazing level of strategic thinking. Besides that, I have been researching deep and deep, and I have kind of started collecting, though I'm not finding such games, but at least a lot of these games can be just played, or the boards can be printed. Now I'm finding games which existed 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, which
Wow.
have completely gone missing or not. These days hardly ever anybody must be playing those games. So I've started even gathering those now.
How do you trace them? How do you research that? Where is it available? कैसे करते हो? मतलब this is part of your travel agenda?
Yes, of course, internet to hai hi. But yes, whenever I come across any person who's doing, I'll just go deeper into, where this person belongs to, going into their research or trying to connect with them over email. Secondly, I'm quite a passionate traveler. And when I started falling in love with the ancient games, like way back in 2017, I especially made trips, because South India is still having rich collection of the ancient games, the smaller villages and all. I especially made trips to these smaller towns and places, and wherever in the villages or wherever we go, I try and talk to those people. What do they play? How do they play? So when I come across them, I find them. And one such thing was Hampi, which is at the north of Karnataka. Now, Hampi is said to have, amazing architectural, like the ancient most architectural places. If you visit the temples, caves, everywhere you will find the games carved on the floor. Even my son started noticing, he would tell me, Mama, see, there's a game carved here. There's an etching done inside the temples also. So whenever I come across such things, we take photograph, then we'll try to Google. So multiple ways.
Good one, good one. So, so whenever you go to a village or some of these travel locations, I think more than younger people or kids now, you're more excited about finding the old person and then say, "Hey,
Yes.
आप क्या खेलते थे बचपन में?" Right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Good one. So, what were you doing with Sonam Wangdu? In Ladakh. What was
Okay.
the event, or what was the occasion?
So I have always been, along with Traveler, I always, whenever any conferences or any seminars are happening, almost every year I have this agenda that I should have some learning, some kind of networking happening. Now, this was an educational confluence of 7 days. And when I started unschooling my son, I was searching for people who believed in this philosophy. I did try to connect with him, and fortunately, around that time when I was trying to get in touch with him, this educational confluence was announced, and we were aware that all the 7 days Sonam Wangchuk is going to be there with us. So I immediately registered for that workshop, for that confluence, and we were there. And the photograph which was showed with Sonam is at the very ice stupa location. So we were lucky enough to have him as the guide for Ladakh, showing us places and showing us, telling us about the geography and the science and the geometry and everything about all the things happening there. So it was
So
a
this is the
beautiful
ice
experience.
stupa which will help the farmers during extreme summers. Yeah, right.
Yes, yes. Basically, not just farmers, but there's high shortage of water by the end of summer. So this ice stupa has completely allowed, all the villages to have water during the time when all other, the water has gone down or dried up.
Okay. During this pandemic, you've been helping parents, suggesting them what are the games they can play with their
Yes.
kids. So, what were the best ones? What were the best picks that you have suggested them, or is it's a trade secret?
No, 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 and nothing is trade secret actually. This also was a complete free, intervention that I started with. But there are few upcoming gaming companies or the youngsters which have got into games. So one, of course, was the mathematical games that have come out from Luma World. And if I say that my journey in this sharing games with the crowd, I will say my best journey happened in August when I did a Made in India drive. And every single day, I would try to look for different manufacturers from India. I would call them up, try and connect with the owner or the founder, talk to them about their philosophy. And then it was not just selling of a game or putting a game across to people. It was actually, where I was. Understanding the philosophy and trying to explain to the people what is happening with this game, why this game, and how it helps. So I would prepare short write-ups and I would send to them. So the more hit ones obviously were card games and family games, fun-filled games. Educational games, thankfully at that time, otherwise it's usually that we want something academic. So during the pandemic, it was a lot more family and bonding kind of games. There were a lot of jigsaw puzzles that were like super hit because as a family, people were trying to complete it. And overall in the world, the jigsaw sale had gone super duper high during the pandemic. Other things were also the creative, like, the construction blocks, the Lego blocks kind of things. These also were a super hit because families were trying to build those things up. And another was card games that really, like, you talk of Uno DOS, Phase 10, multiple such card games are one favorite game which every time I tell whichever game you have, but the first game you should have in your house is Find It First. It's the Indian version. The most people might know it by the name Spot It or Dobble. That has been till date the most super hit game.
Yeah.
Or Sequence was again a very super hit game with families.
Super. We had an experience. We ordered Rummy Cup that was suggested by one of the neighbors, and she clearly mentioned that it's very addictive. You would actually start fighting against each other, and as it name is Rummy Cup, I was like thinking it's something related to poker and all that. I thought it's difficult, and I did ask her, so is it something related to card game? She said no. Pick it up. You would not regret it. And we did it. And during pandemic, we played after the first wave was done. Our cousins played, and it is so addictive. People,
Yes.
every kids get glued to it, and they start fighting for it. So it was really amazing. I never imagined a board game can make a huge difference on how to engage kids and have fun. Everybody, including my wife, was like having fun. I wasn't pro because I was working and occasionally getting into it, but it was absolute fun with that game.
Yes, and I'll add to this. I have a senior citizen couple in my neighborhood. They are both above 70. And entire lockdown, every single day they have been playing Rummy Cup. And they recently called me that now get me a new Rummy Cup because all the numbers now have,
Oh my god,
started fading out. So every single day they are playing it.
super. So, Mithal, you've been doing a lot. You've been educating parents. You've been preaching about games in India which are fading away, so that we don't lose up on our tradition. So can you now talk about the upcoming book which is, I think, releasing tomorrow? Are you excited about it?
Yeah, very much excited. Uh, so what I have done is, in the book, it is more of educational or more of the theory based book where I have had this experience for years. Whenever we used to run English class, we used to have full enrollment, but when I say it's a games class, parents are like, games mein kya time waste karna. you know
Hmm.
they've really undermined the value of games very often, and especially when kids come into the 8th, ninth grade and onwards, parents completely take them away from games because they are like, science is more important, this is more important. Whereas I always feel that that's the age they need the games more. So in this book, what I have tried to do is I've tried to compile my complete research or my knowledge about the neurology, about when you play a game, what is happening within the brain, when you play a game, what is happening in the mental health, in within the chemicals or the psychological parameters, what are the changes happening within the body. I've talked about my journey, and then I've talked about the complete science behind playing games, and then I have moved on to the applications, because again, people always feel that games are for children. But if you look back into history, now when you talk of shatranj, when you talk of war games, check any historical moments and you will only find kings and warriors or the top soldiers playing games, the board games. You will never hear shatranj or chopar being played by a child. Even in Mahabharata, we saw chopar was being played by adults. So somewhere that again has got filtered now. People always believe that games are only for children. And all this history, even the world famous warrior Achilles, he used to play game during the war of Troy in the evenings. So it was a very high valued learning tool for people. So that thing, I've covered that history in a very, very interesting way in the book. And then I have talked about the applications right from the kids to women, adults, couples, as well as senior citizens. And finally, in the last part of my book, I'm talking about the current toy industry, the current scenario, and how these new upcoming board game designers are doing it in a very, very scientific manner. So the book can be actually useful to parents, to teachers, to trainers, to psychologists, anybody who wants to start incorporating games in their you know pedagogy. They will understand the whole science or the essence of what is happening when you play a game. So that is what the book is about.
Wow, super. All the best. You have not mentioned the name of the book, though it's getting displayed here.
Yeah, it's Game Your Mind.
So,
And if you look at the acronym, it's GYM, GYM. And the whole idea is that games are a mental gym.
wow, super. So, anything else you want to mention, Mithil, before we end the show? Any message you want to pass on? and what are the services if any of the friends want to connect and take your services? What are the services and how can they reach you?
Okay, so they can reach me at Mital Salia on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I also have a channel on named Khel Khel Mein on YouTube, where I keep putting videos regarding multiple parameters. So people can get in touch with me on any of the social medias and search for Khel Khel Mein or Mital Salia. And other thing is the message, if I say, I have one mission, I have one motto in mind, that there should be play and there should be gaming in every single house. We've been doing so many social game nights for creating that awareness. And I just say that एक बार game खेल के देखो and you will start seeing the difference. So play games, play more games.
Wow, super. Thanks a lot, Mital, for joining us on the show. Thanks a lot, friends, for watching this particular show. So if you find this interesting, do start, practicing some games, buy some games online, go through Mital Salia's social media network, social media handles, where you can, see the suggestions, some of the games she has mentioned here. And if you need any support from Mital with respect to corporate or group games, for any events, large events which you're having, so you can connect with Mital. She wouldn't mind traveling. She is providing these services not only in Mumbai but across India. She wouldn't mind traveling to make your event, successful and very interesting. So instead of spending those
Ravi? Sorry.
lavish, yeah, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you can even log into my website khelkhelmei.in. I've written a lot of blogs. So especially for the educationist and all, I've mapped different games to the Bloom's taxonomy. So that is something which can be useful to most of the educators or trainers.
Wow, super. Do you also have games for specially abled kids, somebody like people who have autism, etc.?
Yes. So again, when I started doing this game awareness programs, I did have a lot of psychologists or special ed counselors and, the special children counselors who have been regularly asking for games. So we keep recommending, and many of the games which we already recommend for anyone, these games are far more helpful as a tool for ADHD, autistic kids, or even children with special abilities. There are multiple games that stimulate the different skills, so they are useful.
So thank you, friends. Do connect with Mital if you have any questions, any events, and yep, it's good to have good friends around, especially friends जो खेल खेल में ही अपनी life गुजार देते हैं. So thank you, Mital, for joining in. Have a great
Thank you,
evening.
Ravi.
Thank you,
Thank you so
friends.
much. Yeah.
Bye.